Hello, I'm coming to you live for sketch stretch number 2, Go Hard, Go Soft. If you can really create hard versus soft or boundaries in your pieces, and a boundary is an edge, right? So if you can have hard versus soft edges in your drawings, you can go ahead and you can really control a lot. Okay, so for sketch stretch number 2, you need to have a lot of supplies nearby. So I need you to make sure you're set up. So as you can see, I have a paper towel ready to go, and I have some paintbrushes. Use what you have, and I actually have my own sketch bag. You should have your charcoal nearby. Here's the class set of watercolors you guys have, and you also want a variety of pencils. So what we're going to do before we go ahead and we start is with my pencil. I just wanted to be very clear about the difference between hard versus soft boundaries. So a soft boundary, let's pretend that this is going to be our lightest value, is when you turn your pencil to the side and you basically are making a value scale. And you're going dark, and then you are slowly lifting up pressure. Dark, and then almost light. And that slow transition from here to there, that would be a soft boundary. So let's do that all the way around. So I have like soft going in, right? So this would be soft, this would be soft. Basically when it's going light to dark, that's kind of a soft change. In order to make it hard, we can make the edges hard by going ahead and really making a strong edge at the boundary, and see if we could kind of have a sudden change from light to dark at the side. At a hard versus a soft boundary. This is soft because there's a slow change, and I'm going to bring that up a little with pencil. But there's a slow change, like as we're moving in, it's going darker to light. So this is all kind of a soft transition, soft boundary, right? So we're going soft, but we're going hard on the outside. So if you look towards the edges, right, there's a change. And that's why we can see the box, right? There's a sudden change from light to dark, and it really has to do with the amount of pressure you're putting on your pencil. And you don't want to overblend. I'm gonna go really light with my eraser. Blowing away. Okay, going in. Okay, so again, this is my soft. Now, where would my hard be? Well, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to show you with a Sharpie. See, I just outlined where the hard boundary is. So what I want us to do is some skill drilling. Oh, I think this is upside down. I want us to do some skill drilling exercises where we're practicing with our different mediums, creating hard versus soft boundaries. And you could think of these as kind of fun value exercises too. So again, just remember what value is. So just remember, like, value is kind of the key, because if you go from a dark value, lights versus darks, if you go from a dark value to a light, that creates a soft boundary. But if all of a sudden you switch from, like right here, I go from a medium value to a darker value, that creates a hard boundary because there's a sudden change. So what we want to do is we want to label in our sketchbooks, playing with our medium, sudden changes, showing that we're mastering different mediums in our sketchbook.
Go.
Okay, hi everyone. So I don't have the cool charcoal kit that you guys have in your sketch kits. Remember, use your sketch kits. but I have this old one from like back in 2001. So I'm gonna lift it off. Oh, it's old. But as you can see, as I open it, I have a variety of charcoal from college back in the days when I was in art school. So go ahead and get your charcoal ready. Okay, so as you could see, I just warmed up with my charcoal, just like I did with my pencil, kind of like going from dark to light. This was my soft. I just did some value scales across the page. So this would be the soft boundary as we're transitioning through. The hard boundary would be the edges. So I'm just showing that I can create a distinction. Now let's see if I can talk my son into letting me draw him. Let me draw him. I'm going to try to show you hard versus soft boundaries in this sketch. So I'm going to try to emphasize that. So when drawing a face, just a quick review, the eyes are actually in the middle. So the eyes are always going to be in the middle. We're going to focus on humans later, but human faces later, but you can start doing human faces now. Notice how I'm taking risks with line. I'm going really light, but I'm just kind of blocking in his face and what I'm seeing. And I'm thinking too about where the light is coming from. And I'm thinking about the direction of the different parts and the different kind of anatomy in his face. And I'm not worried about making mistakes because I know I'm just practicing kind of using the materials in the sketch kits. And I'm not getting kind of like stuck in one place for too long. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to start using charcoal. So I'm just going to mark in some areas. I'm going to grab a pen. Jacob, can you look at me? Just because I know it's going to be hard in the charcoal to get kind of like a more crisp edge. Nothing like a pen to make a hard boundary, right? Hard. Darken the top. Hard. Leave that highlight in the side. Okay. But now I'm going to go ahead. Jacob, look at me. Jacob, I can't see you. And sometimes your models won't cooperate. I mean, you got to do what you can do. Now I'm going to try to do hard versus soft boundary. So I'm going to speed up the camera now. And I'm going to try to use charcoal. Okay guys, so this is a quick charcoal sketch of my son. You can see how important hard versus soft boundaries are. So the hard boundary tells me that this is the edge of his face, right? And his face ends there because there's a sudden change right here. Also, like the light, we'll talk more about fight with light next week, but the light's coming in this way. This side is lighter. And then obviously the shadows underneath his mouth and the side of the nose are going to be harder, but all of a sudden softer, like up here on the nose. It's not perfect by any means. I was using the kneaded eraser to pull stuff away. If it ever gets really dirty, just pull at it. But it's really important that when you're drawing, that even though the background wasn't necessarily super dark, I went ahead and I really darkened it. So you could tell where his face kind of begins and where his face ends. And you know, some might say that it looks like he has a black eye, two black eyes. But remember, the entire thing is just kind of like a study of light and just getting used to the medium. And guys, when you're, don't think like, oh, I can't do charcoal right now because it's messy, or I don't want to use it up, I don't want to use my supplies up, or I don't have fixative. It doesn't matter. You're just kind of getting used to the medium and you're forcing yourself to be more comfortable. But again, this week we're taking hard versus soft boundaries. So start looking at things, how to draw. And think about like you're drawing through that lens. Okay, ask yourself, where is a hard boundary? Where is a soft boundary? Okay guys, so a lot of you have Winsor Newton watercolors. These are some of the nicest watercolors in the world, and you have them. I really want to see in everyone's final digital portfolio that they were giving watercolor a try. So it occurred to me that we didn't do a watercolor warm-up, so I'm going to put this in the front of the video. So watercolor warm-up. There's pencil on here from my last sketch stretch because I can't turn the page because there's a wet painting on the other side. What I want you guys to do is try to go from dark to light. So again, if you have a lot of paint, that is going to be a dark value, right? And then slowly try to wash it up where you're just painting with water. And you can try like different colors. And I mentioned this, but brown, actually more of the burnt sienna color, and the blue will make kind of a black color. So you mix brown and burnt sienna, or sorry, blue and burnt sienna, you're going to get more of a black color. So I'm going to go dark. So I cannot emphasize enough, the heavier the paint, the more paint you use.
Mommy, look at Jacob's hands. Show them.
Yeah, I see, Jacob. My son has charcoal all over his hands. The more paint you use, the darker it will be. And your colors like blacks and blues are going to give you kind of like dark values too. And then if you want the value to slowly get lighter, then you're going to kind of like pull up on the edges. And you can pull up with your paper towels and like dab as you slowly move across the page to like nothing. And I'm really working on having this slow transition. I have more of a dark thing happening here. This is kind of like a soft boundary in here. Maybe I can have a soft boundary on the outside. And you know, there's no right or wrong. But really in your PowerPoint, you want to like say, okay, here's the hard boundary, right? And here's me trying a soft boundary. Here's a hard boundary right here. Maybe I pretend that these are some trees or something that are kind of coming up. But just showing us that you could tell the difference between the two. Hard versus soft. So guys, as a warm-up for watercolor, I was kind of trying with to play around with dark and light values. You can see that the water kind of like did its own thing and it went around the page. The point of this exercise is to not paint something perfect, right? But just try having a wide range of values. So this would be my soft. Obviously these tree-like things are hard boundaries. This right here is a hard boundary. And then this is soft, moving across. And
change from black to pink.
This is hard right here. This is hard, and then this is, so this dark value right here, this would be a hard boundary. So I'm gonna like just playing around, and I'm going from dark to light, creating a soft boundary, right? But giving room for me to have some hard boundaries and let the watercolor improvise itself and become something else. And then this is where we're going in a second. I'll show you how I did this. So before I get started, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna set some goals. I'm gonna make some notes in my sketchbook about what I'm gonna try to do. So what I'm doing right now is I have heavier amounts of paint. I'm using more paint here and more water to create the soft boundary. So I'm painting this cup, if you figured it out. I think the side of the cup, the side of the cup is lighter than the inside. So I'm gonna mix kind of like a darker value red on the inside. And in order to get a darker value, I need more paint. And I'm gonna take risks with line. And I'm just gonna try to show that darker value. And I really want this harder boundary right here. My sketchbook's tilted. So the water's going. Don't be worried about, you know, watercolor kind of messing itself up. And now I'm going to take my paper towels and I'm going to get rid of some of that water. And now I hardly have anything in there, and I'm just in my brush, any paint in my brush, and I'm just pulling the paint and the water around. And the darker value, that harder boundary, is where the paint's at, and the softer boundary is where there's more water. So I'm kind of pulling that around, and I'm thinking about other ways to kind of darken the edge a little. I'm using that darker red. You have a light red and a dark red. So I'm using the darker value for the edge. And then I'm going back. Now I'm going to get like more of a mixture with just water. I'm going to just kind of try to paint the edges. It's really light on the side, and you can see now I got stuff bleeding across. So I'm going to pull some of that up. And it really is kind of like a struggle, but you got to keep on. You can't give up. As you kind of, now I'm blending it in, and I'm noticing there's a darker value right here. In the cup, there's kind of like a shadow coming up. So I'm gonna kind of really darken that edge, taking some risks with line. Wrist get stretched from last week and kind of coming up. I'm tempted to use some blue now, kind of darken my color more. Don't know if that's a good idea. I'm gonna try it. Get more of a purpley, darker red. Come in from the side. And then I have sort of a lighter value up at the top. This is softer. I'm not liking that. Sometimes it's gonna go wrong and you don't wanna say like, oh, I messed up. Just kind of go again, you do it again. And you see once you have water on the page, it kind of pulls it over. Like the water is the vehicle and it really pulls it over. Clean up that edge right there. Put some dark shadow in there. This really is a soft boundary going over, but I want to keep that light right there. Pull this in. Maybe you have a smaller brush. What's Sophie doing, Jacob? Smaller brush. Kind of like clean up the edges a little. Paint on top of what you painted. Add some more paint. Maybe add some hatching in there. Some ellipses. Now there's more of a hard boundary at the edge of the cup. Really capturing that edge of the cup is hard, so I'm gonna kind of pull around. Try to get that. Now there's nothing like a different color to show that harder boundary, so I'm gonna paint around the edges with a darker value, and I'm gonna speed up for that. Brown and blue make black. I'm kind of making a black. I'm always mucking up my watercolors, but you can't worry about messing them up. You got to use them and show that you tried them in your sketch kit. It's outside, sir. Huh? So I'm going to do a lot of wet on wet for the side where there's a lot of light. So adding more water. I like that shadow. I'm going to put that back in. Fill this up. More of my brown, blue, black to really make this pop out. So I'm starting to notice, I'm actually looking at a different cup that's not in the shot, and I'm seeing something really cool. I'm actually seeing the reflection of the cup. That's curvy. In the table. So for kind of like a spicy challenge, maybe I'll try to add that reflection. And obviously when I add the reflection, that's gonna be super soft. So if I were to add that reflection, maybe add a lot of water with the black color. And I'm really just trying to, adding more brown. I'm really trying to paint that light in that I'm seeing. Getting the bigger brush because we got a lot of big boundaries. Kind of like seeing a lot of green colors coming in at us. I'm doing a lot of wet on wet. See, like I'm really putting a lot of water on the page, and that in itself, watercolor is meant to create hard boundaries. That might be a little too strong. Let's see. I don't know if that's the right color. Look at me, I'm mixing on the page. I think a lot of you guys like to do this. Which is fun. See kind of like this purpley color coming up. But all of this is soft, right? We're kind of in this soft city. Really defining the edge of that cup down at the bottom by having an opposite color. I'm gonna really make that color thick at the bottom. So I'm actually getting a lot of paint right here to kind of like show the shadow under the cup as it kind of moves out. This darker blue, and more of this darker blue in. And that, the more paint, again, the darker value. Hi Sophie, I missed you. I'm gonna add some greens in down here. See some of the paints wandering over. I feel like I need to balance the heaviness right here with having some shadow over on this side. So I'm going to put that in, adding some more of the grays. What? So right here I'm really defining the edges. The edges of the cup have dried now, and a lot of the light is hitting the cup. So I'm gonna really, this might be too much. I might be going too far. You guys tell me what you think in the comment section. Kind of like pulling that aside. And I hear my daughter crying. Really softening the edges right here. Gotta go inside, daughter's crying. Where's your paper?
Right here.
Okay guys, so for our fight with light sketch stretch, I have my eye on this right here. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna try to paint this. Obviously the light's coming in this way, and it's dark on this side. Taking in what we learned from last week, you got some hard boundaries around here at the edges. So again, this is fight with light. Okay, starting out by taking some risks with line. Going hard versus soft. Going in. Dancing around the page, getting a sense of kind of what's happening.
I want a different paper. Have some blue. Have some.
What are you gonna copy from Fancy Nancy?
Remember that thing they drawed? The splishy splash, and then they dance. Remember? So I'm gonna draw that. Have some.
Okay, so I'm going really sketchy with this kind of like bright red color. And I'm working with a lighter brush.
No, please, no.
Guys, I'm teaching.
No.
She's saying no. Jacob,
Where can I draw it?
Get a different paper.
go get the paper that's inside. Okay, it's on a big blue pad.
Yeah, a big blue pen.
Okay, thinking more soft boundary. Soft as I draw, kind of like the tree, the light in the flower. It's going from more of a dark to kind of light. And now I'm going super soft. And in watercolor, the light white is the page, right? So you want to be careful to not overpaint. Here are the shadows coming in. And then I got some red right here. Okay, what's challenging about this piece is that the hard boundaries are actually made with kind of like a green, and this green is the leaves. So in watercolor, complementary colors or colors with different values kind of really helps to create contrast. So this is kind of like the edge, the outline of the flower right here. So I'm going around and I'm painting that outside of the flower. I'm not worried so much about getting the color right because we're thinking more about light. Again, this is kind of like a round brush. So there's more, it's kind of like a brown green. So there, right now there's more.
Is this brown?
Just so you know, that's brown, yeah.
That's brown.
Just so you know, there's way more paint on my brush than water right now. And I hope my phone doesn't die. Ugh. Okay. And my eyes kind of just, I'm taking risk with line as I go around, and it's following around the edge. And then now that I got this hard boundary of green, this green hard boundary, I can go ahead and be soft on the outside. So again, I'm painting kind of like the outline of the flower. And now I'm doing more of a stippling action with my brush. I'm gonna mix in, just so you guys can see what I'm doing. 1 second, calm down, Sophie. Okay. I'm gonna mix in some of the other green that you guys have available. The yellowy green. Okay, what's happening over here? So over here, I have some of the leaves kind of coming forward. So I'm gonna have more detail here with these leaves. And these leaves are actually in the front, and they have a lot more light. So I'm going lighter with my water right now. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, so this is kind of a leaf right here, and it's, I see some yellow, so I'm mixing in some yellow underneath. Ah, too much yellow. There I go, mixing on the page again. I see this yellowy, kind of like bright leaf down here. Can you guys see that? I don't even know if you can see that. Yes, we can see it, miss. And then the hard boundary would be the edge of the leaf, because all of a sudden it gets darker. So this is the edge of the leaf. I probably should have waited till that water was dry, because now it's just kind of bleeding in. That's kind of a hard boundary right there. And this is kind of like an edge right there. So this is the outside of the leaf. So I think, like, when am I painting the hard versus soft? Actually, that's red right there. I don't know what I'm doing. And you know, it's a struggle. Like, when is something in the front? When is something in the back? But you just kind of try your best to capture it. When is the edge? I'm seeing this. Sometimes you could go in with another medium and really make a hard boundary or make a choice. When I'm sketching, the pen helps me to make a choice. I'm going in. I'm just kind of making some notes with my pen. This is the end of the leaf. And I think there's another leaf that comes out in front of here.
What are you drawing?
I'm trying to draw the flower.
Where my osprey's going? You like how my osprey's going?
I do. Make sure you use the whole page, okay?
I turned the white into the purple.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I turned the white into the purple. Look.
Oh my goodness.
Turn the white into the purple. Turn the white into
So you guys should really practice being bold with a lot of paint. So there's a lot of paint right now on the brush to really show the edge of this hard boundary. I'm gonna kind of paint there at the edge. Really having this burnt sienna kind of cut off the edge makes us know that this is the edge of the leaf. Now what's kind of challenging is this is a shadow of the flower, so I'm going to come in, really try to continue that edge of the leaf right all the way across there.
Is there some brown? Those are the branches? There's your brown. Is it brown the branches, Mama?
Uh-huh. There's no flower down here. It's probably a mistake.
You can draw whatever you want, Mama.
Thanks. So I'm kind of jumping ahead, but we got light coming in this way.
Okay.
And then it's obviously dark on this side. I feel like I don't really know when the flower ends, so I'm going to try to make a hard boundary right here at the edge and really make it clear that the flower is going till here. There's green. There's actually green leaves in front of this flower right here, but I'm going to cheat. So I kind of am going to try to blend this right here, bring this value down, and then add some more water. And then now I'm going to add some shadows in here. Very light. Just a little. Add some of the shadows that are down here. It's kind of like there. I don't know if I like that. I feel like it's encroaching too much on the light. I do feel like there's some more light right there, but it's hard to bring it up once you've made it dark. And then soft boundaries at the edge. What do I do? I think I messed something up, guys. See how unclear? Where the edge of the flower is. So I'm going back in with a lot of my heavier watercolor paint. And I'm going to do some stippling, just a little bit of water on my brush. It's kind of like make the edge of the flower really distinct. It's all about boundaries. This is kind of like a hard boundary at the edge. I want to lighten up the painting a little. Lighten up the painting. Maybe put some blues in there. Add some blues. This is wet on wet. Get some water. A lot of water. Maybe I want to show in the background some of that idea of the trees going, but have it be very soft. There's another branch going this way, but it's very soft. Very light. I see a lot of yellow in the background, so I'm gonna play with that, but I'm not gonna overdo it. I'm gonna have it be kind of light and airy. Where's my blue? My color theory teacher always said to leave white at the edge. So there you have it. Some white at the edge. Yeah. So you got some hard boundaries right here at the edge where the flower is. Hard boundaries at the edge of the leaves. Inside of the flower, you obviously got your softer boundaries and some stipples with the brush to try to show the texture of the flower. What's nice about this choice is red and green are complements, so that helps to create a really hard boundary right here at the edge. I hope this sketch stretch inspires you to keep painting and working throughout the weekend as we work with hard boundaries versus soft boundaries and our fight with light. They kind of speak to each other, so we'll talk about both weeks.